Have you ever wanted to be an engine that powers a great roaring train ripping across the digital lands? Well, you can because, hi, this is Amanda, CEO of Multitude, and it is the Multi-Crew Drive. This is when we are making it especially tasty for you to join the Multi-Crew, which, going back to my metaphor, lets you be the engine that powers Multitude. It's a membership program that lets you fund new work from us and get exclusive stuff. Now, it's a great time to join all year round, but in these 2 weeks, it is especially great because we have set a goal of reaching 100 new and upgrading members. And to make it worth your while, we're doing a bunch of special stuff. We're having several hours of a telethon on Twitch where we play trivia and games that anybody can attend. We also have 6 brand new podcast episodes featuring Multitude hosts. Misha is teaching Moiya all about the ocean. Me and Corinne and Eric are talking all about reality TV. There is so much more. Isabel and Amanda Silberling are here with me to debate and make a competition of emails. It's incredibly good. Julia wrote a whole RPG about Helios being hungover, okay? You can only listen to these episodes if you join the Multi-Crew. And if you join by September 27th, you also get a free enamel pin and you get your name inscribed on a literal plaque on our literal wall here in the Multitude studio if you're on an annual plan. So learn all about the Multi-Crew, why you should join, and why it is worth your while to be the engine that powers us, all at multicrew.club. That's multicrew.club.
Welcome to Pale Blue Pod, the astronomy podcast for people who are overwhelmed by the universe but want to be its friend.
Hey, that's us. Hey, everyone. I'm Dr. Moiya McTier. I'm an astrophysicist, a folklorist, and a friend to the universe, and also my co-host.
Yes, a friend of me, and I'm a friend to you and all of our listeners out there. I'm Corinne Caputo. I'm a writer and a fun person, and I'm really excited for our bio episode.
Yay. I feel like it's been a while, and I also feel like it's been a while that we've been putting off covering this person.
I know, we have talked about this person a lot. I did go through our docs to be like, are we sure we never talked about this person? Or like, we have, but not exclusively, so.
Right. It was about time. And I did plan to do a different historical astronomer from around the same time period, but based on what we're covering next week, I just thought that this would be a good person to start with. So without further ado, listeners, today we're talking about Annie Jump Cannon, who was a pioneer in stellar classification and in our understanding of stars in general. Where are we talking about her?
We are on the beautiful Rohoboth Beach, one of the most popular beaches in Delaware. And we are here because Annie Jump Cannon was born in Delaware. Not here, but in Delaware.
Mm-hmm. And it's a good place to be as the summer ends. We're going to soak up the last rays of direct sunshine, as direct as we can get it, and we're going to play with some sand and some waves.
I know. It's already getting very dark in the mornings, and I'm not liking it.
No. It's an unfortunate consequence of our axial tilt.
How dare.
So listeners, you know the deal. We're going to be covering the life and work of Annie Jump Cannon, starting with how she started.
Yeah.
So Corinne, where did she come from?
Okay, I really wish that I was about to talk to you for 20 minutes about Annie Jump Cannon's early life, but it was wildly hard to find info on that, which is sad in its own way. But you've heard her here on the pod. She was the census taker of the sky.
Yes. What a cute nickname.
It's a really cute nickname. She was born December 11th, 1863 in Dover, Delaware, which is the current capital of Delaware.
You say 1863.
1863. What did I say? 1663?
No, I think you did say 1863. I'm just thinking, what else was happening in 1863?
Yeah.
She was born during the Civil War.
Yep. And Delaware was, I almost created just a series of facts about Delaware to beef up this section, and then I found it really boring. Sorry to anyone in Delaware listening, so I did cut it. But Dover is the current capital of Delaware. It's also where most of the jobs there are related to the government because of the capital, which does make sense. But Annie Jump Cannon's dad worked in government too. So she was the eldest of 3 daughters born to Wilson Cannon. He was a Delaware shipbuilder and state senator. And then there was his wife, Mary Jump, which, love that name.
Yes. Mary Jump, where? How high? Yeah. How far?
And apparently Mary Jump, Annie's mother, was the first person to teach Annie about the constellations. Very cute. And Annie and her mom would use this old astronomy textbook they had and identify stars they could see from their attic. So I was trying to understand this. Apparently they had like a trapdoor to the roof or something, so they could like climb out and watch the stars in this like observatory of sorts that they built together.
That's so nice.
It was really cute. And Annie was born hearing, but when she was about 30, she got scarlet fever, and that caused her to become deaf. So she mainly relied on lip reading to communicate.
Wow.
Yeah.
A deaf icon.
Yes. And actually, the final fact I found about her that wasn't related to her schooling, which I knew you'd cover, was that her mom also taught her about household economics. And I was like, what does that mean? And I think it's just like, running a house and the organization and project management behind that. But they said that Annie would later use that to organize her research. And so much of her research was organization and titling and documenting. So it really seems like she was heavily influenced by her mom, which I loved.
That's so nice. Yeah, I read that her mom really encouraged her to get into math and science. And I love that she got to use the other things that she would have been forced to learn, like as a woman in that day, to manage an office, because that's what she was doing.
Yeah.
She eventually started working at Harvard Observatory, leading a bunch of women who were known sometimes as computers because they were running calculations. And she had a manager position. So she got to use those skills. That's awesome. I didn't realize that Jump was her mother's name.
Yes, that was such a fun thing to note too, that her I love her name. Annie Jump Cannon is such a good name. But yeah, that's her mom's maiden name in the middle.
Love. I always assumed it was a marriage thing going on, but I didn't see anything about a marriage or children in her bios.
I didn't find that either.
All right.
So.
Look at her. A fellow thornback she is. For listeners who don't know, a thornback is someone who's too old to be a spinster, but is still single and not a parent.
And what's the age there? Like 22? You're like
it's 27.
Oh my God.
When you turn 27, you're too old to be a spinster.
What is the movie that that sound goes viral every few months of like, I'm 27 and I have no job and no prospects?
It's got to be Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, I was going to say it's Pride and Prejudice. That's how I felt writing cover letters looking for a new job.
Yeah, that is how they make you present yourself. Yes. Please, can I have some more job?
I have no prospects.
Okay, so not much personal life on our girl Annie Jump Cannon, but she did a lot of really interesting science that we can talk about. I can't remember when she went to university, but she went to Wellesley College, which was kind of new at the time. I want to say it was in 1880, and then she graduated in 1884. She studied physics. So she started at Wellesley in 1880 and then graduated in 1884 and then kind of left the field. She went back to Delaware. Wellesley is in Massachusetts. So she went back to Delaware to kind of take care of her mom and her family and was there for 10 years. And it's during that time that she got scarlet fever and became deaf. And after her mom died in 1894, she decided to get back into physics. And so she went back to Wellesley. She started teaching physics as like a junior teacher. And she also started taking some graduate classes at Radcliffe, which was the sister school to Harvard, because women couldn't attend Harvard until the 1970s or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild.
Alternatively, my college was a women's only college until later. So not enough to even it out, but some places have.
Yeah, all those old schools had sister colleges that were affiliated with them, and that's where the women could go. So Annie Jump Cannon was a special student at Radcliffe. She wasn't, I think, fully enrolled at the school, but she was taking some astronomy classes there because Harvard had the Harvard College Observatory, which was a very well-respected observatory back then. and still is. The Harvard-Smithsonian Observatory is one of the biggest collections of research astronomers in the world. There are hundreds of astronomers there. So it still has the respect, I think. But for 2 years, she was teaching, she was taking graduate classes, and then in 1896, Annie was officially hired by Edward Pickering to work at the Harvard College Observatory. Have you heard of Pickering?
Yes, I have, but I'm not sure why.
Mm-hmm. Pickering was a stellar astronomer at the Harvard College Observatory who is well known for employing a lot of women to run his calculations and do his data reduction.
Yes.
So this group of women would take data from its raw form and put it into an actual useful form, like numbers that we can read or charts that we can look at, and then they would analyze that data. Edward Pickering was especially interested in classifying stars. He wanted to understand how stars worked. This was at a time when we didn't even know what stars were made of. We didn't know how they formed or how they evolved over time. And so Edward Pickering wanted to study that, but his idea of science was one where before you could start coming up with hypotheses about how things worked, you had to categorize everything first. So you had to collect a bunch of data and then categorize it.
Yeah.
It was very old-fashioned in that way. When he hired Annie Jump Cannon, he was working on this decade-long project to take pictures of and take spectra of stars. That project started in 1886 when Anna Draper, who is the widow of Henry Draper, a doctor and amateur astronomer who took a lot of astro pictures. Like he was an astrophotographer, and he took the first spectra of the star Vega. So he was like well enmeshed in the astronomy community. He dies. And in 1886, Anna Draper takes their wealth and a lot of the data that they had collected in their home observatory. That's how wealthy they were. Schmancy. So she takes all of their money, or a lot of their money, and the data from their home observatory and gives it to the Harvard College Observatory, starting the Henry Draper Memorial Fund, mostly to fund research in stellar photography and spectroscopy. So Edward Pickering is like, all right, I have all of this money. I'm going to take all of the pictures of all of the stars. Just a little bit more history about spectroscopy, because that's really what they were analyzing. Do you remember what spectra are, Corinne?
Well, spectroscopy is like this kind of rainbow thing, and you can see what gases you're looking at. Yeah.
Spectroscopy is when you take light and you split it up into all of the wavelengths that are a part of it, and you can measure how strong the light is at different wavelengths. And because we know different gases or different elements will shine brighter in different wavelengths, that will tell us what elements or molecules are in whatever we're studying. Cool. So they were doing this with stars, learning what elements are in stars. And the technology of spectroscopy goes all the way back to 1801 with the double slit experiment that showed us that light behaves as both a particle and a wave. And so after 1801, people realized that there were wavelengths of light. So they started studying light at those different wavelengths and coming up with tools to split the light up into its wavelengths. And there were prisms, and there were grading mechanisms, and there were all of these different strategies that people could use to do spectroscopy. But it was in the 1800s, like a really exciting new thing that people were experimenting with. And so that's where a lot of energy in research was going, including Pickering's team. So the first Draper catalog of stellar spectra came out in 1890. This is before Annie Jump Cannon is hired. And it has 10,000 stars in it, and they continue to collect stars. They analyzed and categorized these stars, the group of women that Pickering hired. And there's kind of like an evolution, or kind of like an ancestry tree of women who worked analyzing these stellar spectra, starting with Nettie Farrar, who was one of the first women to look at this Henry Draper catalog. And then there was Wilhelmina Fleming, who looked at the catalog and came up with a classification scheme of her own. It had 22 different classes that she could assign the stars to, all in alphabetical order, so A through Q. And that was a really complicated system. She was just assigning stars based on what the spectra looked like. They didn't know what features to really pay the most attention to. But the next person in this ancestry line was Antonia Maury, Maury. And she wanted to make things a little bit more physically motivated. She wanted to understand the theory of how stars work. And Edward Pickering didn't like that. He just wanted them to be categorizing the stars. He didn't want them to try and think about how the stars actually worked. He was like, that's the next step in the process.
Sure.
Of course, I think you need to understand how things work so that you can properly categorize them. But it's a fire and smoke thing.
Yeah, he's kind of trying to just control the unknown, which is really hard.
True. And I relate to that, I guess.
Classic pitfall, yeah.
So Maury's scheme was a bit more complicated than Fleming's because it was motivated by the underlying physical processes in the stars, which she didn't totally understand either, but she had this kind of intuition for what types of features to look at. But Pickering didn't like her scheme. It's worth noting that there were some other schemes before this. There was an Italian astronomer, Angelo Secchi, in the 1860s who came up with a scheme that had 5 different categories. And there were so many schemes because people didn't understand the physics that made stars work. So that takes us to 1901. Annie Jump Cannon has now been working for Edward Pickering for 5 years, and she has looked through so many of these spectra, assigning them to the 22 classes that Wilhelmina Fleming came up with, and realized that that's way overcomplicated. And a lot of these groups are overlapping, and even within some of these groups, it's really inconsistent. So she realized that they just weren't looking at the right features of the spectra. Mm-hmm. For years, she throws herself into her work. I read a bio that kind of made it seem like after she lost her hearing, she threw herself into her work as almost a coping mechanism.
Okay.
Yeah, and so she would be, by the height of her career, she could analyze 200 stellar spectra in a single day.
Wow. That feels like so many.
It is so many. She got so fast. She was so good at it. But in 1901, she published her first catalog of stars after working there for 5 years with her own modified classification scheme. She used the same letters that Wilhelmina Fleming used, but she took it from 22 down to like 9. And kind of like Maury's classification scheme was paying attention to the physics, or at least trying to, Cannon was also trying to look at the underlying physics of stars and get into the theory of how stars worked. So she came up with this classification scheme in 1901 that had the following categories, and they will probably sound familiar up to a point. O, B, A, F, G, K, M, which we know of. We've talked about those before. And then she had an extra 3 categories, N, P, and Q. Over time, over the next decade, she dropped the last 3. She simplified the categories. And in 1922, the International Astronomical Union officially adopted her classification scheme, which is now known as the Harvard System of Stellar Classification, which I think is such a ripoff for our good pal Annie.
Yeah, sure. I would want it named after me completely, and you never forget it.
Exactly, because even at the time, she was credited with doing all of this analyzing herself. It wasn't one of those stories where Edward Pickering got the credit, and then decades later we realized that Annie Jump Cannon did all the work. No. At the time, she was getting recognition for doing the work.
Yeah, that's even weirder.
And they still called it.
Because I would have just chalked it up to like, well, you never know at the time.
Yeah, nope, just...
Okay, well, now I'm really not a fan.
Just blatant sexism. But she is one of the first historical women in astronomy that I ever heard about. She has a bunch of accolades. She left behind a huge legacy that we're going to talk about at the end of the episode. So she's doing fine. But
she's all right.
But she could have gotten more recognition. What set her classification scheme apart from other people's was that she was paying attention to features in the spectra that were actually meaningful, that actually told you something about the nature of the star. Specifically, she was paying attention to features that were related to temperature, that could tell us how hot the star was. And that's distinct, that's different from spectral features that would tell you about the gravity of the star at its surface, or how bright the star is, or how massive it is. Like, there are some spectral features that can be proxies for those pieces of information, but she wasn't looking at those. She was looking at the temperature proxies. Specifically, I'm going to list off a bunch of things, mostly for the benefit of people who are into astronomy. If you want a more like basic understanding, this doesn't have to mean anything for you. But she was looking at the hydrogen Balmer lines, which are like a particular class of spectral line for the element hydrogen. She's also looking at different types of helium atoms, some that were neutrally charged and some that were ionized, meaning they were either positively or negatively charged. She was looking at some calcium ions. She was looking at a carbon and hydrogen molecule combined. And then there were some titanium oxide lines that she was looking at. Like, that is how specific spectral analysis can get. We're looking at multiple versions of individual molecules. It's really detailed, and I have not done a lot of spectral work.
Yeah. The categorization does seem to me like one of those tasks where you can kind of put on like something to listen to and like start organizing. I think I might love this task.
Yeah, it does seem very repetitive, but not the type of repetition where you have to turn your brain off.
Like, it seems satisfying in the end.
Yeah.
Hi, it's me, Corinne, and I want to say thank you to our Sun-like stars, Scott Reynolds, Ian O'Leary, Augustin, and Tom T. And a huge thank you to our latest patrons, oh my gosh, Melissa Mormon and Kashmira Wag. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I'll gladly say it again on next week's episode. Patrons get to hear their name on this show, make their mark on our patron star chart, and get research notes for every episode just by supporting us on Patreon for about $1 per episode. And of course, if you sign up for an annual membership, you get a 13% discount. Who doesn't love a sale? Find the star chart, Patreon info, and more at our website, palebluepod.com, or go right to the source at patreon.com/palebluepod. And of course, if you can't support us financially, that's totally fine. We love you very, very much. Consider reviewing the show on whatever app you use and sharing it with your friends. And you probably know that Pale Blue Pod is a part of Multitude, a collective of indie podcasts. If you support Multitude, you support all of the shows under Multitude's umbrella. They actually fronted the starting cost for Pale Blue Pod. The best way to support Multitude is to join the Multi-Crew. It's an exclusive club of cool, curious people. Multi-Crew members get exclusive access to bonus content like Head, Heart, Gut, a monthly show where all the Multitude hosts compete in very fun and funny debates. I've done it plenty of times, so is Moiya. It's always a great time. And other perks include game streams and hangouts with the show hosts like me and Moiya, discounts on Multitude merch, and access to the awesome Discord community. You can join the Multi-Crew at the link in the episode description. Okay, back to the show. Bye!
I do wonder what it was about Annie Jump Cannon that made her so good at identifying these features by eye. You know, we today, we have computer programs that can go in and identify mathematically little spikes in a spectrum that my eyes would never be able to see. But she was really doing thousands of spectral classifications by eye. And I don't know if it's because she was deaf. I don't know if it's because she had really good eyesight. Like, I do wonder.
Yeah.
How did she know? How'd she do it?
That is a good question.
But she did. And now we have this classification scheme of hers. And if you would like to know more about the different types of stars according to that classification scheme, then you should go listen to episode 14, which is our Star Types in a Movie Theater episode. And that was a fun one. So go learn about all the different stars. But she didn't just classify main sequence stars. She wasn't just doing the O through M type stars. She looked at weird ones too. That's because she classified about 350,000 stars over her career, over 4 decades. That includes some novae, which are like little supernovae. It's not stars that actually blow up, but it's stars that just temporarily get a little brighter, either because they have, like, a planet has fallen onto their surface, or there's a weird magnetic flare thing going on. But she discovered, I want to say, like a handful of novae, and she discovered 300 variable stars.
Feels like a lot.
That's a lot of variable stars at a time when we didn't even know what caused them to be variable. The person that I originally wanted to talk about for this episode was Henrietta Swan Leavitt, who did a lot of research into those variable stars and eventually discovered Cepheid variables, which we will talk about at some point. But Annie came first, so I wanted to talk about her first. But we will do a future episode about Henrietta Leavitt. So Annie Jump Cannon has done all of this research. She's analyzed hundreds of thousands of stars, and her work was recognized. She got her master's degree from Wellesley in 1907. So while she's like actively doing her stellar classification work, she then worked at the Harvard College Observatory until her death in April of 1941. So she was really dedicated to the field.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But while she was alive and since, there have been a lot of awards given to her and given in her honor. And not just awards, but also like appointments that women didn't get. So she broke a lot of glass ceilings. In 1911, she was appointed to the curator position of the observational photographs at the Harvard Observatory.
Ooh.
So even today, the Harvard Observatory has a huge library of metal plates that were used to store information about the sky, because we didn't have like digital saving ability. We didn't have things that you could just like print out all of these pictures. So they were taking pictures of the sky on giant metal plates that are like 2 to 3 feet in diameter. These circular things. But they also have a bunch of photographs of the sky that they've taken. And so she was the curator of all of the visual records at the Harvard College Observatory, because she did get very into photography during her 10 years off of research while she was back with her mom. So that was nice. In 1921, she became the first woman to receive an astronomy PhD from Groningen University in the Netherlands. It was an honorary PhD. She also got honorary degrees from Oglethorpe University in Georgia, like the state of Georgia.
I was like waiting for a European country or something after that.
She also got an honorary degree from Oxford, I think one of the first women to do so, like in astronomy.
Cool.
In 1932, she won the Ellen Richards Prize from the Association to Aid Scientific Research by Women. Either 1923 or 1929, depending on what website you check, she was named one of the 12 greatest women alive in America by the National League of Women.
Oh,
Which seems like a big deal.
Yeah. And that was greatest women alive?
That was greatest, like, living American women.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Mm-hmm. She at least knew someone important. No, she was a great woman alive, for sure. And she was the first woman to win the Henry Draper Medal of Honor from the National Academy of Sciences, which I think makes total sense because she literally made the Henry Draper Memorial Fund, like, worth it with all of her stellar classification. So, yeah.
Yep.
Give her that award. She left behind such an amazing legacy. There's the AAS, the American Astronomical Society, Annie Jump Cannon Award, quote, for outstanding research and promise for future research by a postdoctoral woman researcher, and she has to be within 5 years of getting her PhD.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, Annie Jump Cannon herself started this award in 1933.
Oh, I love that. Name it after yourself.
Yes, because the classification scheme didn't get named after her, so she was like, I'm going to do it myself.
So I'll just do this.
And after 1934, it was awarded almost every 3 years until 1990 when it started going yearly. And I looked through the list of all of the winners. Many of them I know and are lovely people. One or two of whom I know, are not lovely people, which is interesting.
But I'll never say that.
But I won't say anything publicly, at least. But I will say that at least in the last 20 years and further back, as far as I could tell, all but 2 of the winners were white women. So,
that's a low rate.
Oh, it's extremely low. Yeah, there's definitely an intersectionality issue in
for sure,
in these fields.
Wait, so you get this award when you said 5 years from your PhD, like 5 years from getting your PhD, or 5 years out from having gotten it?
You are eligible for the award for 5 years after you get the PhD. So beyond that, you can't win it anymore.
Okay, got it.
Oh, one of my favorite legacies of hers is actually a piece of software that one of the professors who was at Columbia while I was a grad student there developed. Her name is Melissa Ness. She's Australian and she's an angel. She's an absolute peach. I love her to death. She developed or was part of developing the Canon, which is a software package. It's a data-driven approach to stellar label determination. So it's this computer program that takes really dense spectral data of stars and picks out the most relevant information for you. So you don't have to do the whole by eye thing that Annie was doing. The Canon will do it for you.
She did it. The Canon, I love that. Is it canon?
Is it canon? It's astronomy canon, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing about this. I think I used the Canon in one project that I was working on in grad school, just to try it out. I didn't actually have to do my own spectral analysis, but I wanted to see how it works. And essentially, it takes this really dense spectral data and it labels the spectra with different stellar parameters like temperature and gravity, because remember I said the different spectral features can be proxies for different information. So the Canon will go through, and if it sees a feature that's good at labeling gravity, then it will label that as a gravity feature, and it will label all the temperature features and so on and so forth. And that's based on some well-known reference stars that they've told their software package about. So the stars that you're observing can be compared to those reference stars.
Cool, okay.
And one final note about what Annie Jump Cannon left behind. All of her notebooks are available online.
Oh.
Yeah, like I casually just picked one at random to include in this week's show notes for patrons. But if you go to ADS, the astronomical data system or whatever, which is where people put their papers for free, you can look at literally hundreds of pages of Annie Jump Cannon's handwritten notes, which is actually really fun.
See.
She had nice handwriting.
I was going to say, what's her handwriting
It's
like?
scrawled.
I love knowing that.
It was very sprawling. She spread out her words. She was writing in cursive, but the loops were aesthetically pleasing.
Yes, totally. That is special. My handwriting never quite got there, but I love that some people did.
Yeah, she had enough practice. We started typing after a while, but she just had to keep going with the handwriting. Any thoughts, questions, or reactions to Annie Jump Cannon's work?
I mean, I love naming an award after you. I think that's a very important thing to do. I feel like she really laid a lot of the groundwork for everybody else to be doing their work, which is so impressive, so cool.
Yeah. You cannot be an astronomer who studies planets, galaxies, black holes, supernovae. Yeah, you basically can't be an astronomer who studies anything except maybe cosmology if you don't understand stars. So every advisor that I've ever had really owes a lot to Annie Jump Cannon. So do I.
That's great. And she had the best name.
Yeah, she did. And she didn't have to marry to get it.
Yeah.
It was just hers from the beginning. Nice. I have a funtivity for you.
Ooh.
Inspired by Annie's work with classifying things, and also kind of inspired by the New York Times game Connections, which I keep hearing about.
Oh, do you not play?
I don't play, and I actually don't think the game that I've come up with is that close to it, but it was loosely inspired
It's just
by
like
the
a string
game
of
Connections.
words. Yeah.
Yes, actually, yes. I have here 5 different strings of words, and what you have to tell me is what all of them have in common.
Okay, I'm in.
The first 2 are personal, and then I got to space stuff.
Okay.
The first is, what do quantum mechanics, statistics, and economics have in common?
Were you forced to take those classes?
Nope.
Will I know the answer to this?
I don't think so. I was just hoping you'd be your usual ridiculous self. You're close, though.
This is making me think of courses I would actively avoid taking.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
These are classes that I actively avoided taking.
Yay!
So to this day, I've never taken a quantum mechanics class or any sort of statistics. Definitely not statistical mechanics. That's just two bad things together. And
no, thank
that
you.
does not make a positive
No,
in this type of math. And economics was just way too real. And maybe I should have taken it. Then I would understand money more.
I don't know. How much are they teaching you in that, really?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not like practical everyday stuff. They're not teaching you how to trade stocks in your economics class.
What am I going to do with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did have an economics class in high school in like freshman or sophomore year. And I'm pretty sure it was only half a year, but we did a stock market game where we got like, there was some program we all used and we had like fake money to like buy stock and I don't know, trade. And I remember my team was like, we have to just buy gold. And it was, I think we bought gold in Microsoft and I do think we won, but I don't think that's like a financial advice. I think we won a box of Oreos or something.
Oh, that's nice. The Staten Island schools were light years ahead of the Pennsylvania Woods schools, let me tell you.
Got to get down to New York City.
Well, great job. Great job. You got number one. Let's see. Number two is also personal. Brian, Ian, and Guinevere.
Guinevere.
What do these three have in common?
Guinevere is not a name you hear a lot.
That's true. Unless you're like huge into Arthurian legend.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, but Brian and Ian feel out of place for that. Are these your enemies?
I'm calling them out on this podcast finally.
It's time. No last name, so it's fine.
But they'll know who they are.
Uh-huh.
No, that's a good one, but it's not my enemies. My only enemy is Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, yes, of course. But did he change his bio yet?
No, I don't think he has.
Good. He is the enemy.
Forever and always.
Brian, Ian, and Guinevere. Are these names of pets?
No. I'll give you one more guess and then I'll tell you.
These are nicknames you gave something.
Something what?
Stars.
I love that so much. Actually, the idea that I would have picked out three individual stars to give nicknames to.
Yep.
And that they would be Brian, Ian, and Guinevere.
Yep.
These are the names that my mom wanted to name me, but didn't because she was passed out when I was born from a natural birth, and then my father named me Moiya.
Oh my God, he got in there first.
He did.
And they just went with it?
Yeah, he signed the papers.
Was she mad?
I think she was like, you know what, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I like it now.
I like your name a lot.
Yeah, Moiya McTier has a really nice ring to it. I would have liked being Guinevere, but I would have insisted on Gwynna. If anyone had called me Gwen, I would have been mad.
Gwynna, yeah. I think I would have gone Gwyn first, just by default. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's for the best.
Yeah.
I was going to be a Mallory.
I was going to ask. Oh, I'm glad you're Corinne.
I'm not a Mallory.
You're so not a Mallory.
My parents didn't know I was going to be a girl either, so I think they had like a boy name picked out.
Okay.
But then went with Corinne. But they went with Corinne because they didn't know any Corinnes, they said. And it was like, a fresh slate, kind of.
That's good. That's a good last-minute decision, it seems.
Yeah.
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 Mallory Caputo? No, thank you.
That would have been weird. For me, I just don't feel like a Mallory.
No.
All right, hit me.
Okay, number 3, now we're in the space ones. What do rum, burnt meat, and walnuts have in common?
I think this is what people think space smell like. Because once I read that an astronaut said it smelled like burnt meat.
Yes!
Yay!
Yay! You're so right. I think we've read that same article.
But I haven't heard rum.
Yes.
I haven't heard rum or walnuts before. That's interesting.
Yeah, walnuts was another one that someone just like randomly, like an astronaut randomly threw out. The burnt meat or like burning steel or some sort of burning thing. That's what a lot of astronauts report. The rum thing is from a spectral study of like clusters of stars or a nebulous cloud or something, where they found a molecule that is the molecule that gives raspberries flavor, but it itself smells like rum. So there was this article from a few years ago that said space tastes like raspberries and smells like rum.
Okay. Tastes like raspberries? Okay.
Yeah, which I like more than burnt meat.
Yeah, burnt meat, it sounds scary. Like, oh, you're really not supposed to be out here.
Beware. Turn back.
Exactly.
Okay, great job. You got that right off the bat.
Thanks.
All right, well, good luck with this next one. What do air fryers, M-type stars, and oceans have in common?
Is it something like waves? I'm like an air fryer. I'm thinking like a microwave or like expensive. Something I don't own.
You're right. That is
3 things
true.
that I don't have in my house.
That is technically correct. I'll give you one more guess.
Fast.
They are fast.
Are they fast? Are they all fast?
Actually, M-type stars are incredibly slow. They burn through their fuel over trillions of years, so we've never seen one die.
I thought I had it.
Corinne, this was not a nice question to give you. It was not one where you were expected to know the answer.
Never gonna know.
Yeah.
Totally.
All 3 of these things operate by convection.
Oh, that was kind of what I was trying to think.
Like with waves?
The waves. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I was like, that's really close.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
not bad.
So air fryers are basically just mini convection ovens. M-type stars, at least in their later stages, operate entirely under convection. And ocean currents exist because of convection. Same as wind in our atmosphere. It exists because of convection. So for those of you who aren't familiar, convection is one of the 3 modes of heat transfer. There's convection, conduction, and radiation. Conduction is when you touch something and it's hot. Like you touch a solid thing, it's hot. Radiation is when the heat just transfers through a medium without direct contact. And convection is like in between. It has to do with heat transfer in a fluid substance, so either liquid or gas. So it can happen in air and in the ocean. And we owe a lot to convection. Our atmosphere works because of it. Things like when you're mixing your coffee in the morning, like that works. Bubbles.
Yeah.
So many things operate on convection. So yeah.
Bubbles.
Who doesn't love a bubble? Okay, I have one last one for you, Corinne. What do beer, exoplanets, and Bibles have in common?
Oh, boy. Oh, my gosh.
I'm sorry.
Were they all like created at the same time? Like the first exoplanet was witnessed in like the year we made beer, which we've been doing since we were born.
Oh, right, like witnessed, not like created. Not like on the 3rd day, God said, let there be beer, exoplanets, and Bibles.
No. Like the year we wrote the Bible happens to be the year we started fermenting for beer, which happens to be the year we saw an exoplanet.
That's very creative, out-of-the-box thinking. That's not right, though. Do you want to take one more guess?
The only thing coming to mind is old.
Are old. That is also technically correct.
Yeah, old.
Yes. Okay. So the answer I had in mind for this was, although I will accept old as a correct answer, the answer I had in mind for this was the Trappist monks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yes, this is a Belgian not convent, monastery, a Belgian group of monks who brewed their own beer, the Trappist beer, which is one of Belgium's most popular brands, and it still apparently needs to be made like in the monastery.
Yeah, Eli was a bartender at a Belgian beer bar.
Ooh.
And speaks highly of this beer.
Great. Love that. Yeah, I'm not an alcohol consumer, let alone a beer consumer, but I have enjoyed smelling the Trappist beers.
Yeah.
And they're monks, so they be doing Bible stuff. And in the 20-teens, there was an exoplanet hunting telescope called TRAPPIST, and it was called TRAPPIST to honor the Belgian roots of the telescope project. It's an international collaboration, including Belgium, so they named it after Belgium's most famous beer-making monks.
Why not?
Why not? And now one of the most famous exoplanet systems ever is TRAPPIST-1, which we will be doing an episode about in the future.
Yes.
That was my categories game. Good job.
I loved it. That was so fun. I love categorizing things.
Humans do.
Yeah,
It's a
maybe
very
that is
human-
why I play Connections.
Well, the tide is coming in.
Yep.
Shall we go back, maybe get some food?
Yeah, I would love that. I would love some French fries.
Oh, yeah. That sounds great. Okay, we're going to go get some French fries. No matter what your Spud format of choice is, listeners, remember that you're still space.
Yeah, you are. Bye.
Pale Blue Pod was created by Moiya McTier and Corinne Caputo with help from the Multitude Productions team. Our theme music is by Evan Johnston, and our cover art is by Shay McMullen. Our audio editing is handled by the incomparable Misha Stanton.
Stay in touch with us and the universe by following @PaleBluePod on Twitter and Instagram, or check out our website, palebluepod.com. We're a member of Multitude, an independent podcast collective and production studio. If you like Pale Blue Pod, you will love the other shows that live on our website at multitude.productions.
If you want to support Pale Blue Pod financially, join our community over at patreon.com/palebluepod. For just about $1 per episode, you get a shout out on one of our shows and access to director's commentary for each episode. The very best way, though, to help Pale Blue Pod grow is to share it with your friends. So send this episode, this link, to one person who you think will like it, and we will appreciate you for forever.
Thanks for listening to Pale Blue Pod. You'll hear us again next week.
Bye.